There was a farmers' protest in 2021. Trudeau spoke early and did Canada proud. Trump got banned from Twitter, so wasn't allowed. Rihanna shone like a queen. Boris refused to intervene. Tantesi represented, as did Claudia Webb. Jagmeet was hands-on and like a ministerial celeb. Diljit straightened up Kangana. She was wild. She slurred rubbish about a protester and had to face trial. Greta was an activist then, not head of state, as she is now. She was lauded, applauded. Greta, take a bow. Sunny Deol had his Punjabi badge rescinded. Modi missed Trump. Their souls were kindred. Mandeep Punia, the journalist, was arrested. Bollywood stayed quiet. Their interests were vested. Well, eventually they spoke. It was all a bit of a joke. Sachin Tendulkar, the cricketer, put out a tweet. Turned out he was thick as picture. Sit down, take a seat. Amir Khan, the boxer, said, raise your voice for farmers. Delhi police turned up in medieval armours. Carl Kuzma raised his voice. He did basketball proud. The NFL star, Juju, made a donation. 10,000 he vowed. Rikesh Tikait, of course, became Prime Minister. His reign was loving, not sinister. Then there's good old Modi. He's at Delhi station, selling tea.
They have to go to Facebook too. Can't hear you. Can't hear her. Have you... Chitwan, I can't hear.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're having some technical issues there. Thank you so much for joining the Women's Weekly panel. As you know, that we launched this last week, and it was launched for us to talk about the farmers' protest. But obviously, as we go on week, that probably will change. Today's discussion is about the farmers' protest. It did really well last week. So we had Preet Gill on, we had Rapinder Kaur from Asian Women Mean Business, we had Monica Gill, and we had Kavita, who's doing a walk on the treadmill, and we had Sukhchanda, and we also had Jassi as well. So it was a really, really good discussion. So this week, we are also going to be talking about the farmers' protest, and we're going to see how we can come together as women for us, one, to be able to have our voices heard, as I feel that there are times where we don't really get to talk about the things that we want to talk about. We aren't often heard as much as what we should be. So this is an informal weekly chat. It's going to be very relaxed. And let me just introduce the amazing panel for this week. So we have Tiran Sangira, who is a policy insight analyst. Tiran, you might want to do a little wave so everyone knows who you are. We then have Simran Sandhu, who's a local area coordinator. We have Ramanpreet, who is a senior internal tax manager. And last but not least, we have Preet Sohi, who is from Seattle, and it's 7 a.m. there. Okay, so that is early, really early. So welcome, ladies. If I could just kick off first, with the most amazing news that we received, Nodeep Kaur has been released on bail. So I think that is something that probably the best way that we can open this discussion up. So let's talk a little bit about Nodeep Kaur, and I'll probably go to you first, Simran. If you
hi. So, hello everyone. I think I just want to start off by just telling you a little bit of background about why I got so involved. I work for the local authority in Derby, and I work in the community, and my job is to let people's voices be heard. So when this thing happened in India, and I've been involved for quite a while, especially because friends are working in India working on this, I just feel that the farmers have got no voice, and who's listening to them? And it's terrible and it was very perturbing, and I was really agitated when I saw the way they were protesting out in the cold, and there was nobody who seemed to be giving them a voice. And with Nodeep, one of those things that she's been protesting for the rights of the community, and she was illegally detained. We hear reports of her being tortured in police custody. It was just unbearable. And it's taken so long for her to get bail. And it's just, I think, the biggest coup that we've had, that she's out now. And I'm hoping that this will pave a way to all the others who've been languishing in jail with it's no fault of their own, really. And we've got 80-year-old war veterans who've been abused in the jail. They've been people who've been brutally treated, and it just does my head in. And I just think that this shouldn't be allowed to happen. And I remember tweeting on Boris Johnson's page about this, and the amount of venom and hate I got from the people in this country about this was shocking. I had to literally go off Twitter because it was so shocking for me to see the backlash that I was getting. And all I was saying was, this is human rights. It's human rights violations. It should not be allowed to happen. It is not an internal matter. And I'm so glad that she's out. And full marks to all the lawyers who worked hard, and everyone who's not in the country, but like us, away from the country. Our heart beats in India, and we've been raising this awareness across the world, and I'm so glad it's paid off.
Thank you, Simran. If I could go to you, Tiran, because obviously you've been doing some amazing work, and just about Nodeep Kaur, the whole like situation for us in the UK, the diaspora. Tell us a little bit about, that how it's felt when we first found out about Nodeep, and to know that she's released on bail now.
I think with Nodeep being a trade union activist representing a trade union, it's like if you apply that here in England, for example, say if you're part of a union, you're part of Unite, and you're an activist, you're not going to obviously be taken by the police and put into prison. You're just not going to, because obviously you have rights. And obviously same with Nodeep, she was raising awareness, although she was raising awareness for labourers. And also then she was seen at the mortuary as well. And I think, obviously the shock of her, being taken, put in prison. And then obviously, I think even as women, we know to an extent, when women are imprisoned, there is going to be a degree of sexual assault, especially in countries where there is corruption and where, for example, there are theoretically, there are processes that are meant to protect women, but we know those processes are not always, practiced out. And so I feel like with Nodeep, it was a shock because we were like, oh, it's 2021. Is this actually happening? She's just raising awareness, and this is happening to her in prison. And then there was a whole thing about, are the medical reports, were any medical reports carried out? Were they not carried out? Why is there a delay? Because historically, if a woman is being sexually assaulted in prison, there will be delays for medical reports because the medical reports will prove that she has been sexually violated or raped in prison. So I felt like, maybe our Delhi police sort of delaying these medical reports, but later on it was found out that the reports were carried out. But obviously, for example, if you imagine wounds on a body, they take time to heal. So the longer they keep her in, the better in terms of her coming out and showing those wounds, because imagine you show them, imagine the impact that's going to have on the public. So I feel like Nodeep was, these cases happen in India. We know that, and around the world, we know that. But because the heavy presence of the focus of, the world on India currently meant Nodeep could get that international support. The awareness was, at its peak. So I think well done to everyone who helped raise awareness, and especially her lawyers.
And I think, look, she's an inspiration, because you're right in what you're saying. Here where we are in the country that we're in, I never really think twice. Well, you do, but you never really think twice about what you do say, right? And you know that you're not going to get arrested, or that's not, it's not going to be the level of getting arrested in sexual assault, which is really sad. But I think what an inspiration, because she's in that country and she she knows what to expect, but she didn't stop raising her voice. You know, she fought for the truth. And I think that in itself is brilliant. And obviously as women, it's inspiring for us. So Ramanpreet, could I go to you, please? If you can, you just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
If you could tell us a little bit about, you know, you've obviously been following what's been going on and you're really passionate. Tell me a little bit about how you felt about the whole situation with No Deep Core and just your links in terms of the protest itself. And
yeah, so I'll just stick to No Deep Core at the moment. So for me, to be honest, I didn't know her background or what she did at the protest. All I knew was that when she was arrested by Delhi police, she was beaten by Delhi police and she was sexually assaulted. And for me, at least from what I can see, it's against human rights violation. No matter what, even worst case scenario, even if you take, okay, even if she committed any crime, I don't think it was right for Delhi police to beat her up and sexually assault her. And also, I think for me, from what we noticed, that she was going to get a bail, I think, on the 24th, and then it got delayed and delayed again. So for me, it was again the same tactics of India, like as you call it, tariq pe tariq pe tariq. So it kept getting postponed, her release date. So that for me, I would say that did upset me. But on a positive note, I really liked her courage when she came out yesterday. And I would also like to mention this Mr. Sirsa's note yesterday when he informed all of us that she was out. So he said a really important thing for me, which I liked, was he said, "Stay united and we will win." So I think that's what we need to focus. And as you said, Minreet, I agree with you that yes, she is an inspiration. The fact that she came out of prison and you couldn't tell that she's come out of prison. So I think she's came out more stronger, and we should get some inspiration from these people who are helping people who've been detained illegally. And yes, we should take some lessons and we should learn to stay united, and I think we will win. Yeah.
And Preet, you're in Seattle. I mean, come on, this is so good. You know, like, we're not just a UK-based panel. It's so nice that we've got someone who's on the other side of the globe. Tell me a little bit about, you know, firstly, you know, yourself, and again, around No Deep Core, just, you know, what your thoughts are.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Minreet, for having me on this panel. Obviously, we are 7 seas across, and here we are connected with wonderful women, and I'm getting this opportunity to speak here. So I'm Preet Sohi. I actually am a founder of Employ Her. So that's one of the reasons why this topic alone hits home for me, as I speak highly of how to motivate women and get women equal pay and opportunities here in Seattle. With Navdeep Kaur's situation, I think that democracy really should have been shamed at this point in India. No woman or anybody, in fact, even her colleagues, I think were highly mistreated. You know, even the men that were arrested, Diljit and Shiv Kumar. But for Navdeep herself, I think that being in the year of 2021, and we here in America, at least, were looking at India, or the Indian Americans were hoping that India is going to be a progressive country in the next 5 to 10 years. But when you look at situations, how women are still treated, especially during the most peaceful protest in the history. You know, we talk about it. We've seen the Black Lives Matter in the U.S. We've seen how that's impacted, and seeing a woman treated the way Navdeep Kaur is. I think it is a shame to not just women, but everywhere. Every woman in India can feel that pain. But look at us in the UK, in America, are also feeling her pain. Given the fact that she stood for what was right, that's great. We've all talked about it. I don't think that there's anything additional that I can add to this conversation, besides the fact that in today's day and age, we don't have the freedom of speech in a country such as India. And we think of it as that, okay, this country is going to progress. It's, you know, I sit here and talk to my parents about this day in, day out. We have family in India that are part of the protests, that are impacted by the protests. In fact, I think that there should be consequences now that she's out. I think that women around the world and what you're doing, where Tiran is, Ramanpreet is, and Sharon is, I think even after the fact that she's out, we need to get together and support her from the UK, from Canada, from the US. I think that to get her justice, what's happened to her, I think that talking about it and repetitively bringing it up won't do all that justice. But what can we do now in supporting to get her justice of what's happened to her in jail should be the focus. And Indian government should realize that this protest is not just now farmers' protest. Obviously, we already know that it's human rights protest, but I think that the things that are happening during these protests, especially what happened to her, what happened to her colleagues, I think that this should be talked about. It should be carried out after the fact, and there should be justice. So that's my personal take. I can't really speak on, I don't want to speak on what's happened to her in jail. It's pretty tormenting mentally, and just imagining what she went through. I think that we need to come together and support her going forward. So this doesn't happen to anybody. I don't know how long this protest is going to go on. We've got Disha also in, and now she's out. But I think that women should not be treated, and this matter should not be taken delicately going forward.
No, thanks, Preet. And Tiran, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add on what Preet has said. I think often, in most circumstances, especially with this atrocities committed on a really bigger scale, we often forget what the victim's going through. And what Preet has just said has just literally hit the nail on the head, which is, us discussing what's happened to her in prison, we sometimes, as I think women maybe might be able to associate it in terms of the traumatic experiences that she's going to have to live through the rest of her life, like when she's going to maybe want to travel alone, or when she's going to be, talking to male counterparts, or ever receiving help from the police. Again, she's going to, the experience of that in itself is just going to be life-changing. And I think, like Preet said, we need to, as women, support other women that are going through this, because as women, we can all imagine what would be the worst thing that could happen to us if we're raising our voice, like what you said, Minreet. If we were in the UK as activists, we wouldn't have to think twice that we're going to be taken into jail and be sexually assaulted. But in India, we know there's thousands of cases like this happening all the time. But because of the farmers' protest, Nodeep and Disha were in the limelight, and they managed to get that help. If the farmers' protest didn't have this much attention, would that have been the same case? So I just want to add that point. And I feel like the victim and how we can make that victim turn into a survivor is the journey that we need to focus on. So yeah.
No, that's brilliant. I know, I agree with you totally. And Simran, you wanted to add to that as well, didn't you?
Well, I wanted to add, yes, we are very concerned about what's happened to Nodeep and lots of women like her that go through similar processes. But I'm talking about the farmers. When you were talking about mental health and the trauma, I've got friends on ground who go to Tikri and Singhu and Ghazipur border every other day. And they've told me that when they go to visit and they meet these farmers, most of them are elderly. There are lots of women who've come with their children. And the minute they see these girls, they say to her, Modi hun ki karega? What is Modi going to do next? So I think we should be focusing also on the mental health of these people. And I'm talking to some of my friends on the ground, and we are thinking, maybe if there's people we know in India who are psychiatrists and psychologists and counselors, maybe we don't know how long this is going to be. So we were thinking of setting up a program where we could have a bunch of these people, these psychiatrists, counselors, doctors, therapists, sitting there in the borders, talking to people. Because what's happening is all these people have been displaced from their homes. They're living in conditions that they normally wouldn't do. And it's just awful. And that I know that in India, mental health is still quite taboo. it's not as openly discussed as it is in this country. We are very lucky to be able to speak about it very openly. We speak to people who survived rape, who survived sexual assaults, and there's so many organizations, charities that help them. But I don't think there's enough of those in India. And I think the call of the hour is, after having spoken to a friend who actually went to see them yesterday, she said the minute they saw her, they thought she was a journalist. And one of the ladies started crying. And my heart just broke. And I just think we need to put this across to as many people as we can and get some help for people who are sitting in the borders at this point in time.
Definitely, I'm totally, I agree with you 100%. That is so true. We need to, and I think that's why this is the whole reason why this panel I wanted to organise, was so that we do just get women from all over the place, really, from different parts of the world, to be able to share their concerns and views and to see what we can do together. Because I think quite often people feel you have to have lots of followers to get your voice heard, but actually you don't. You only really need that one or two people who will then tell someone else and then someone else. So I think this is brilliant that, we're all here together and we can hopefully do more of this week on week. If I could just read out some comments as well. So we've had Jessie message to say, brilliant panel, doing a great job. Kavita has messaged to say, amazing panel, well done, ladies. Sukhchandan, who we had, so these ladies are all the ladies that we had on last week. And Sukhchandan has messaged to say, well done, ladies. You are all amazing in the way that you are raising your voice against the brutality of women. Jessie has said it's heartbreaking that humans are getting treated the way that they are, especially a woman. And then we have Kavita, who said, so important to raise awareness of this topic. 100% agree. If this was not in the limelight, the news, how many more would be going through this? Raj has messaged to say, such a good idea, Simran. Much more mental health help is needed at the sites. And we have Tej as well, who's just messaged to say, Tiran, spot on. The protests have highlighted issue against women, but it's a daily ongoing issue. #human rights. And then Rapinder Kaur has messaged to say, such an important point. You didn't need lots of followers to raise your voice. So we have many people listening. And as always, the time goes by really quick, so we're nearly at 3:30. But Ramanpreet, can I go to you? Because you said you've got family or someone that you know at the protest too. Could you tell me a little bit about that as well? And, why is it so important to you?
I think why is it important to me? I think I'm not sure if I can answer that, but since this started, I can tell you, I've not been able to, I can't tell you when was the last time I slept properly. I've not been able to eat, I've not been able to sleep, I can't stop thinking about it. And I think one thing I want to be clear is, I don't want people to think that we as a panel here, we are here to discuss the farm laws. That's not what we are doing. We are not educated enough or educated in that area to be talking about the technicalities about the farm laws. It's the basic concept I want to clear that, okay, some people think they cannot support the protest because they don't know enough about the farm laws. But that's not what we're doing. We are against the brutality of Indian government against the peaceful protesters. So even if you don't know anything about the farm laws, you can see, we have seen the visuals, what's happening. So I'm against that. And on top of that, so, okay, I'm not going into detail into what these farm bills are, but I definitely know they've been passed undemocratically, how they've been passed with just a voice vote. And it just, if we can't even stand up now, I think I cannot not stand up. I think that's my point. And I want to be clear that we are standing up against the brutality towards peaceful protesters. Sorry, what was the question? Sorry, Minreet?
No, I was just saying that why is it important to you? And you've said that really. I mean,
yeah,
I can see.
Exactly. And I'm not, I just think it's injustice. And to be very honest with you, until a few months ago, I used to think, what are these protesters people? Why are these on the road? What kind of people are these? Why would people leave their house and just be on the road? But now it seems like I'm one of them. I'm not on the road, but I'm constantly on it. I cannot stop thinking about it. I'm thinking, this is the time in our history, or at least since I've been born, this is the first time I've seen something that bad, which is so obvious. What's happening is so obviously wrong. And if I can't stand up now, And I wouldn't even see I'm standing up for my community. No, I'm not standing up for my community. I'm standing up for what is right. And I think each one of us who thinks this is right or this is wrong, each one of us needs to stand up against this. And we are making history. We want to be part of a history, and we have to be on the right side of the history. And I can tell you, we are on the right side of the history. What's happened? And kudos to elders and to our community who stood up against this. So our gurus have already said years ago, even before all these management concepts came, that je zulum sehna paapya, je zulum karna paapya, zulum sehna utto bhi badda paapya. Why? Because that makes that attacker more powerful. And once that attacker becomes powerful, he will attack more people. So we should stand up against what's happening now. And if you can't stand up now, what can be the worst? What's the worst which can happen to us? You know, you'll be dead. That's the worst, right? So if you're not standing up now, you're dead. I would say you are dead now. You know, the meat's dead. So I would say each one of you, whatever you can, the minimum you can do is like what somebody's posted on social media. And so again, another point I wanted to say was, like, few years ago, we say, okay, cinema is like a mirror of what's happening in society. And what I've noticed nowadays is social media, the online social media is the mirror of what's happening around us. I can see it. I can see it in the last 1 or 2 months. I'm telling you from my experience how much hatred I've been gone through just for talking about the farmers' protest. So it's if we do not stand up now, it will be too late. And I think we need to be clear why we are standing up. We are not economists or we are not agriculturists that I've read the law and I think it's wrong. No, that's not what we are doing. There are farm leaders who are negotiating that. We are supporting, we are standing up so that peaceful protesters can do their job. And they have been maligned and they've been attacked. Journalists, I can go on and on. I can go for 2 hours. But I would say, yes, please, everybody, stand up. This is your time. Be on the right side of the history. So I think I should give others to talk. I can talk 2 hours.
No, but Ramanpreet, that was brilliant. I mean, just some of the comments that have come in just around that, you know, from Tej, we're with you, feelings are mutual. India, and then Sukhchandan said, India, by its ruling party, BJP's conduct has been exposed to the world as if human rights do not matter. Someone has said, I love the way that you did that. And Sukhchandan has said, as women, we owe it to our sisters, mothers and daughters to amplify their voice and seek to bring about long-term change. So it's brilliant. You know, you are obviously resonating with the people that have tuned in. And Tiran, if I can bring you in, because you wanted to add to that, didn't you? The political element to that.
Yeah. So I feel like with what Ramanpreet said about, you know, you don't need to be engaged with the elements of the legislation, although I do feel like a lot of us are aware about the legislation and the minimum standard price and all of that. But I was just going to say a lot of terms that people might not regularly look into are being used. For example, democracy, human rights, communism. I've even heard that, you know, Nazis, fascism, and it's good because people are now politically engaged and they're talking about all this terminology. And the violation of democracy comes in many forms. So one is obviously the implementation of those laws, violating the constitution, not protecting human rights. But also it's about who is in power in India, BJP. And Modi was boycotted from traveling to America in the past. Why was that? Because of what's happened in Gujarat. So basically, I feel like people now, especially like the Indian diaspora, I feel like they're now more engaged with investigating into who BJP are, what are the other opposition parties, and then they apply that and apply it to their country where they're living now. And so then people want to know, hang on a minute, what is the UK government doing? Or what is the government in America doing? And then this political pressure on our own politicians. And now you can see where, you know, people have looked in India's politics, gone outwards, started influencing their politicians, and now it's political pressure on an international level. So I think people are more engaged with elements of economics, religion, politics, history, where they might not have been otherwise. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I was actually going to say, I mean, if this happened years ago, obviously, you know, like Ramanpreet said, I can't believe how everyone, I mean, I can believe it, but I just, in a nice way, I can't believe how everyone has come together to support. So me being a journalist, when I was trying to pitch the story, my editors kept saying, no, this is no interest to the UK. And I thought to myself, actually, you have no idea. Because if that's what you're thinking, it has got every bit of interest, because we can see how people have come together in the UK, in the US, in Canada, you know, in Europe, basically Australia, every single country, I can see that people are there. And like Ramanpreet said, it's not about the community that we're supporting because of that. It's the farmers, right? It's the human rights. So it's nice to see how people have actually come together because they're supporting human rights, right? Because it's a human rights violation, what's going on. And we need to be able to come together to support, because actually, who else is going to do that? If we don't do it, and we're sitting back, you know, who do you understand? So who else is going to do that? So I totally agree with you. And Simran, if I can bring you in as well, because you wanted to add something as well, didn't you, around social media and the importance on why?
So I'm part of this group, and we've got about 10,000 followers. We run a Facebook group called We Support Farmers. And when I first started, I'm one of the groups, and I do the admin for the group, sitting here, set up in Chandigarh. So when we are talking, I remember everyone saying to me, go on Twitter. That's where the voice gets heard. So when I went on Twitter, I was actually shocked by the hate that you get from it. It was exhausting. And I'm so invested in it. I mean, I'm up till 2:00 in the morning monitoring posts, because people do fake accounts. They post nasty things, and you've got to make sure that you've got the right people in the group. And it was just shocking. And then later on, I didn't realize it, but apparently the BJP cell has a whole army. Apparently he's got a troll army of 40,000 people whose only job is to tweet hate. And I'm just thinking, you know how they arrested Disha Ravi for having this toolkit, supposed toolkit? What about the toolkit that's being used, brainwashing thousands and thousands of people all across the world? I mean, I've actually fallen out with some of my friends who still think that Modi is a visionary. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't be becoming too political on the show, but I just think it's crazy for what he's doing to the people. Look at the barricades, you know, the concrete barricades. My friend who lives in Delhi cannot go to the Tikri border without she was checked 6 times last time she went. And she had to find routes going through little villages because they closed all the main routes. What is this? Is this a democracy? We are supposed, and apparently our ranking has fallen from, I think, 153 to 23 now. That's how low we are as a democracy. And I think if we don't speak up now, like Ramanpreet said, there's no point. We've got to raise a voice, and we've got to stay united, because at the end of the day, it's the farmers, and it's beyond, it transcends communities, it transcends states. It's not a state revolution. It is for the whole of India, and people have to realize that. I mean, it just makes me choke up, really. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Look, this is the whole reason why we're doing this, is because we couldn't go and do it on mainstream, right? Because there's too many rules and regulations. I'm not bothered about that. I want people to have a voice. Like, seriously, and I want women to be able to have a voice, which is why I was saying that, you know, feel free to say exactly how you feel, because if we don't say it, you know, what are we going to gain by just staying quiet? We're not, like Ramanpreet was saying earlier, you know, you should be able to just do something rather than nothing. Even if you can't do it via your social media, then speak to people about it. And look, you know, some of the comments from what you just said, Simran, from Raj Kaur, the unity in the community is such a beautiful thing to see. Kavita has said, together we are stronger. Rupinder has said, hypocrisy at its finest. Bob has said that they're closing the village routes too. And Rapinder said, Simran, be political. You know, Modi's behaviour is unacceptable. He has not even spoken to the farmers. And great points, ladies. So there you go. Carry on saying exactly how you feel. Preet, can I ask you, how are things in Seattle? I mean, you know, how is it over there? People must really be like supporting. Just tell us what the vibe is like. I'd love to know.
So, absolutely. Well, first of all, Seattle is not that huge. Okay, compared to California and Texas and New York and most of the East Coast and West Coast states, Seattle is not. And when the protest started flaring in a lot of places. I will tell you, I was so proud to see and be a part of a city, not just because of the Sikhs and the Indians here that are supporting the cause, but also the Seattle Times. I don't know if Manreet, you saw that on my LinkedIn, but on Seattle Times with Sikh Collision added a post in the support of the farmers' protest that's happening in India. When you think of the Seattle Times, nobody really knows the Seattle Times, right? It's a very small publication, but in the state of Washington, where there are 2 million people, given the fact that we are the headquarters for Amazon and Microsoft and Boeing, you have a huge population of Indians. From the north to the south to the east to the west. We've got them all here transitioning from many different countries for job opportunities. So having this protest happen here and having the Sikhs carry it out, the Gurdwaras supporting it, we actually had a rally. We've had several rallies, and the turnout has been huge. Not even given the fact that this could impact their job in some way. No, because executives within these corporations are very supportive towards what's happening in India because their biggest population of employment comes from India. So Seattle has been in support from day one. And I am so proud to say that just because even prior to protests, we have Indian communities here that have been carrying out langars on a daily basis and doing seva. And again, I kid you not, we are not that big. We're very small. Our population is 2 million of people, but when you think about the Indian community, it only gets smaller. I think that understanding the importance of what we stand for. So going back for what the three ladies have already mentioned, I think I'd like to add to why is this so important? And for people that don't know what's happening, I have friends that constantly ask me about the farmers' protest, and I educate them, and they see why it is important, and they have been joining us in forces on my social media talking about it, given the fact that they're not even from the country, right? But they understand it because where I come from, do you attend farmers markets? Do you go and eat from there? We do. In Washington, we go to a lot of farmers markets. It's held out here quite big. I mean, we do have local apples being grown here. You go to California, you'll actually see Indian farmers, Indian American farmers, right? So why is it important? Not just because it's happening in one country. It's happening because it shouldn't. If you think about, everybody eats farm to table. You go out, you go shopping, you go to the grocery store, you're bringing fruits and vegetables, right? So it's not just coming from one particular country. This is happening in India right now. It could happen anywhere. So the importance really is, how do you feel about this happening in a country where it is one of the most populated countries? If it can happen in a country with over 1.5 billion people, it can happen in America where there's only 300 million people. And talking about, going back to what Simran said, social media. I know that not everybody, I personally, my dad actually, in fact, when I told him about this panel, he was kind of concerned given the fact that what I'm doing with my startup and trying to get involved. And he said, how would this impact? And I said, do you wake up every night, go to sleep every night during the day watching the farmers protest, and you are, upset about it? And he said, yes. And I said, I'm doing exactly what you wish to do. And what the consequences come to me, I'm in a country where there is, thankfully, we have new presidential, administration, but I am in a country where I do have the freedom of speech. And in India, it's not that way. Not for women, not for men, not for gender diverse people. It's not there. We have it, and the power of social media is. I understand not everybody wants to get involved in something like this, which could, backfire to a certain extent. But at the same time, sharing a post and hashtagging it the proper way, and voicing your feelings and opinion is absolutely normal. The consequences of what you did for, for Black Lives Matter, for other human rights, for transgenders. I mean, there's so many people that are voicing that, and the consequences is an aftermath. It's going to happen regardless. You support one protest, one human rights activity that's happening. You can do and you can do nothing. All right, you can do nothing and still be under the fire. So what I'm saying is, social media is powerful. If you have a voice and if you have an opinion, sharing that, it's absolutely no right to hold this. But like you said, talk to one person, to another person. You yourself, Minreet, started this last week, right? You didn't have to do it. The women that were on the panel, they didn't have to be on there, right? They wanted their voice to be heard. They're probably bottling up their feelings, sitting at home, imagining and wondering how they could say what they wanted to say. And for you and for Punjab 2000 to provide a platform and say, you know what, if you want to speak, here we are. And look at all the messages that are coming from different social medias. These are women and men that are in support of something like this. They needed a boost, and you, Minreet, are doing that. You're providing that. So if we can do our part with social media a little bit and bring that voice, see, whatever, and I say this, and I've had this on my social media, whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. Okay? Even the slightest change, if you can try to make and the attempt to making that, you can make a huge difference. So use that power of social media.
That was brilliant, Preet. I mean, some amazing comments that have just come in, to say truly inspirational to hear from such passionate women in our community. Where have you been all my life? Amazing work in setting this up. Bob, who's just tuned in as well earlier on, he'd put a couple of comments up, but he said, I have to say it's a proud moment to see so many women being involved in sharing and supporting the protest. It's awesome. And kudos to our culture, highlighting the true equality and ability to have women leading the way and being so vocal. Rapinda said, well done for educating them, Preet. So important to raise awareness. Valraj has said, our sisters on the panel and across the world are the backbone of the farmers' protest movement, and time for change is now. And, Simran has said, fantastic. And you know what? This is just brilliant. Bravo Punjab 2000 for putting this panel together. Social media has played a huge part in changing the narrative that Gaudy media is putting out. So honestly, to all the ladies out there who are tuned in, and even to the men, like Bob's on there, get in touch. This is a women's panel, but we're not just going to stick to just women. I mean, the door is open for men to join. The whole reason why I wanted to do this is because, one, it's just nice to have people from across the world, as we have, come together and to network with one another. Otherwise, how are we going to get to know what each of us are doing? But also, how are we going to get to support unless we come together and do what we are doing, which I can see now. So that's why, for me, it was just my seva. I thought this is something I've always wanted to do, always wanted to have a women's panel. But what I love about this is everyone's voices gets heard. Like, they really do. So I'm going to stop talking because I can talk forever. And Ramanpreet, I'm going to go to you because I know you wanted to say something earlier on. So over to you now.
Thank you. So, Minreet, you said that we can't talk about this in the mainstream media. So I don't know what you meant by mainstream media, but we can't even talk about this on usual Facebook groups.
Yeah,
right?
no, I understand. I know. Well, really quickly, with the mainstream media, what I was saying was I tried to pitch this story like 100 times. And what I had to go through was really hard. That's all I can say, that it is very difficult for people to actually take it seriously. So they have certain guidelines that they need to follow and what they can cover and can't. So that's why it was tough in terms of getting it on.
Yeah, but it's even tough. So forget that. So I can understand it was tough for you. And you still managed to do 8 stories. So congratulations. And, I take a lot of inspiration from you. But we can't even say that on normal Facebook groups, right?
I understand.
So whoever is raising voice against the current government or its policies is either blocked, deleted, or your comment is deleted. I've been deleted from kind of many Facebook groups for just raising awareness, not without using any kind of bad word, or if they can't defend me, they just block me. So I think that's why the importance of voice is important. So wherever you can raise the voice, kind of raise the voice. And another point which I wanted to raise was, it's not about a particular political party. I think my view and my opinion would be the same regardless of the political party. Uh, I'm against the law. I'm against what's happening. I'm against the human rights violation. It's not about a political party. Even if it was another political party, my opinion would still be the same. And if they bought these, because I hear stories, oh, the previous government wanted to bring this, that. Doesn't matter. The fact that they did not, and you are the current government, you bought it, so we are against you. It could be any political party. And another thing which I wanted to mention was, so on 8th of February 2021, recently, Mr. Narendra Modi said, MSP thi, MSP hai, MSP rahegi. In contrast to Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar, so he was quoted saying in Indian Express on the 24th of September 2020. So now he's saying, we are committed to MSP, but it was never a part of law. So in a way, he's saying, na MSP kabhi thi, na MSP kabhi hai, na MSP kabhi rahegi. So complete contrast to what Prime Minister Modi is saying and what his agriculture minister is saying. So that's why I'm coming back to my point where we can see it's blatantly, obviously wrong. Something cannot be so obviously wrong for us to support that. And another thing which I wanted to mention, the importance of voice, the amount of online hate and bullying. So what I'm trying to say is, people in India, so for example, and then they say, why only Punjab? Only Punjabis have problem with this. Only Sikhs have problem with this. So they've kind of made this between a Sikh and a Hindu matter rather than a farmer and the current government matter. And I can believe when I said this is online media nowadays is a mirror of reality, what's happening. And I can see that why between, as soon as I'm on any kind of group or any trying to see, they see my name, they see the name Kaur, even before I've uttered a word, they're like, oh, I can smell farmers protest. I'm like, but I've not said anything. I've not commented. I've not said a word. So there is a lot of hate and online bullying. And I think yes, anybody who's critical against the government has to bear the brunt. And it could be any political party, any current political party will be against the rule. We are against the action. We are not against a particular person.
No, I understand. And I think what you've said about social media and people's posts being blocked and the fact that you've got core, I understand, because I recently posted something on LinkedIn and it had lots of views, lots of traction, but I had a lot of people, and it wasn't even a political post, but it was people just kind of trying to shut it down and were being very rude. And I mean, that is something I did want to talk about, was what kind of stuff people have been saying and how you found it. But I know Simran wants to say something now as well. And I'm conscious of time. We've got about 9 minutes left. So Simran, I'll go over to you.
I think what's the long and short of it is that I think the protest, the government at the minute is just staying mum. They've not said anything. Despite Mr. Modi saying, Mera telephone line khula hai, he's not bothered. It seems to me like there's a complete lack of empathy for this. So because we are working with people on the ground, people are now, the farmers are now preparing for the summers because we don't know how long they're going to be there. So we are in touch. I don't know if you guys have heard of Wyman thing, who set up a clinic there. So we get a list from him. So it's basically ways going forward. We know this may stay for a long time. We don't know what's going to happen at this point in time. So in order to support our farmers who are sitting there, we get a list of things that are actually required. It's not just the langar, but interestingly, ladies, the langar that they make is feeding the hundreds and thousands of poor people around that area. And it's not just the protesters, it's people, the laborers who live around that area. So we need, at this point in time, we need mosquito nets, we need tents that breathe, we need lots and lots of things. And there are a couple of very legitimate organizations that if any one of us want to donate, whether it's, and also I'm in touch with a couple of people who are basically setting up little, like thinking of adopting families. So you've got farmers, lots of people who died, so their families will need help on the ground. So there are, we could get in touch with the families in person and then try and set up support networks for them from here. So I think in ways of going forward, we need to be thinking about what we can do in order to basically support these people. Also, the farm laws, for example, actually state-led. What grows in West Bengal doesn't grow in the Punjab. What grows in Gujarat doesn't grow in Bombay. So these laws were never a central matter. They should have been left to the state. And this is the biggest breach of democracy, of constitutional rights the government has done. And I agree with Ramanpreet when she says it could be any government. But at this point in time, this is what we've got. We've got to find ways to support the farmers. We can all, if you've got friends and relatives in India, let's tell them to go there as much as possible. Talk to them, support them with the things that they need. And I think there are organizations like the Hemkund Foundation. They've got a web page, they've got a Facebook page, they've got a Twitter handle. You can contact me. We are directly dealing with people who are on the ground, working with people, so we know what is it that they actually want. Because we don't want to keep sending money without having the transparency of where it's going. So in order to support the farmers on the ground, we need to get practical. We need to support them in practical ways. And I think that's really important. So happy to help if you can give my number to people. Very happy to help.
No problem, Simran. If I could go to Tiran, just around other ways and other means of raising awareness, I'd like to bring you in because we've got about 5 minutes left and I just want everyone to be able to give their last words.
So just a little bit of background because I didn't give any background insight to myself. I'm a former parliamentary policy researcher. So I worked in Parliament for 7 years. And also I've majored in political science. And I just think that there is a heavy focus on Modi, democracy, BJP. And although I agree it could be any party that could have implemented these laws, but it's the process of the violation of the process of it. That's number one. And number two, I wanted to mention is that often, I think recently we've forgotten the transnational elitist class. And basically what that means is there have been predictions that at some point, with globalization, state governments will not be in charge of their economies. It will be corporations. And we know there are some corporations that are richer than smaller states. So there needs to be our focus on Ambani and Adani, I feel like does need to go back there because when the towers were, shut down and everyone moved from the SIM network, what was it? Geo, that's when Modi first engaged in a conversation about I can delay these laws for 18 months. That showed some weaknesses from the Indian government coming out, and that sort of heavy focus of I know I had a couple of friends, we were like, should we go through all the Ambani and Adani companies, get their social media handles and just say to everyone, look, just drop them a line. Do you know that this is what's happening with your investors and stuff like that? And we don't do that, but in the end, because it was quite a mammoth task, but it's something that we are looking into. And I, with a friend, drafted a template for the British public to use to contact their MPs. That did receive traction. And a lot of MPs did come forward and they signed a cross-party letter as initiated by Tan Desi. But also I know friends that have got podcasts set up now. There's a podcast called Proper Pange. And it's really good, it's informative. And it's like us talking, but there's just three men talking about it and they talk about different issues. Then you've got people that do parts, like in Kenya, there's a group, they're always holding parts every Sunday. Even if the Sangat is 2 people, they're dedicated to holding that. And, that just goes to show that people are working in pockets, however they can, and with charity work, with, political pressure, entertainment element, people sort of even with posters on the windows and car windows. So there is a lot of that, but I just do feel like going forward, the political pressure has to be a key because we are raising awareness, and I think people are aware. But I think the political pressure and the focus on Ambani and Adani needs to come back. I genuinely feel like that's where our push is going to be. So yeah.
Thanks, Tiran. And Rupinder just said, well done, Tiran, shows the difference we can all make. Jodhby has said, report and block the hate. They're doing the same to us when our profiles are public. Simran said 100%. Bob has said to Ramanpreet, probably on your comment earlier on, there are actually bots monitoring all of our comments and hashtags. Ignore them as you would somebody shouting racism in the street. They keep contradicting themselves and delaying. The amount of IT trolls out there will never outnumber us. Please keep the momentum and we will get justice, not just for not just the farmers, but all injustice for our people. Tej has said another great discussion, and Punjab 2000, thank you for your seva. Preet, could I go to you now as well? Because I know you wanted to say something. I mean, I know this could go on, and we can go on for a little bit longer if everybody's happy to. But yeah, if I could bring you in, Preet.
I wanted to go back to our opening conversation. You brought a great panel together, right? You asked the first question about Navdeep. What are we as women being given this platform, but also this panel? What can we do to support Navdeep first and the women farmers? Obviously, all farmers, but we are focusing, right? This is the reason why we came together here, was based on how we can support women, especially the farmers. What can we, having this platform, do? Can we create a group where women can come in to support? Can we provide any sort of assistance to Navdeep? Health, medical, we talked about mental illness a few times. I'm sure she's traumatized. Tiran brought it up. Simran brought it up. The trauma she's going to, go through, from mental health to speaking to another male colleague, ever traveling. What can we do from a different angle? I understand everything that's happening. We can sit here and talk about it, but what can we do our part, or what part can we play in small pieces of the movement that's going on within the entire protest, such as helping Navdeep? And can we help her with any sort of aids, from attorney fees to mental health? How can we support the women farmers in particularly that are out there in the cold? How can we support the women that are out there in the cold? Hygiene is at question when you are out there. For how many days you've been out there? How are you taking care of your personal hygiene, knowing that women do need that? And we all agree in that aspect. We can sit here, like you said, and talk about this for days. But we have to take measures in what we can do as women. And that's the whole reason why I joined, is this focuses on the women farmers. And I just want to know, what can we do, Minreet, and with Punjab 2000, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. I wouldn't have known where else to go and speak besides speaking on my social media, besides speaking on my LinkedIn. And coming from an IT background, or having an IT company myself, I will say this. What I've started to learn and to know with social media is I don't read comments anymore. I don't. And I will only respond to the comments that I like. I've had situations, I do get, a little fiery. Trust me, I do. And that's why when my father asked me this morning, how are you going to make sure that this impacts you in the right way, knowing my personality is a little bit, I would say I'm definitely got the Punjabi side of me, and I've got a little, Portuguese, Latin side of me. So it does fire up on social media. So I will say this is, avoid looking at the comments. It doesn't matter. You made a statement. You put your opinion out there. You've said what you needed to. If you've poured out your heart and your feelings, leave the rest. Avoid. Don't read it. Don't look at it. Bullying, you can't stop it. This is a ongoing situation, an issue. You can't stop it. Somebody mentioned bots. Yes, there are bots, but when there are people, there are people. Just avoid any sort of conversation. Going back, what can we do, Minreet? And I want to close it out on my part for that extent, is what can we do for the women that are out there? Okay, I've heard, some goons have been, harassing women that are protesting, younger women. And we've had a younger gentleman that got involved, and took it upon himself to help women from sexual assault, even out in the protest, where there are thousands of people around them, they're still happening. So imagine behind bars, a whole completely different story. In public, where you're at a protest, it's happening. What can we do to support not just sending money and food? That's not where our job stops. There's more to it. How can we support from start to finish for the women that are out there fighting in this protest?
That was brilliant, Preet. I love that. There's so many comments coming in, just to say,
I am a little
well
fired up, like you can see, right? That's why
I can see the passion coming through from everyone. I think it's amazing. And Ramanpreet, you wanted to add to that, didn't you, of what we can do? Yeah, please feel free.
Yes, thank you. So yes, I definitely agree with what Tiran said, that we definitely need to have create that political pressure. But we do have Preet, who was with the panel last time, and we have Mr. Dacey, we have Claudia Webb, MP from Leicester. So they are doing their bits, but as individual, we can do a lot. So even for example, other day on a work call, my boss called me and goes, Raman, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. Because you don't sound okay. And I'm like, yes, I'm not okay. Because what's the matter? I'm upset about the farmers' protest. And then he started to kind of saying, oh, actually he's not bothered about it because it's in India. I says, no, food is a commodity which affects everybody in the world. So I would say, do not let people think that it's India's matter. It's food is a commodity which should affect everybody. So at the end of the day, it's going to affect everybody. And human rights violation, it's a global issue. It's not India's issue. But apart from that, even simple things like when Black Lives Matter, I remember there was a communication from a communication department talking about it. Mm-hmm. Contact your HR, contact your communication, tell them that this is the big thing, one of the biggest protests ever going right now as we speak. Let them, request them to capture that. Request them to communicate that to your within your department or within your company. Talk to your circle, and I think we've done a good job up to now talking to within our circle, our mom and dad or grandparents, brothers and sisters. I think we've done that now. I think we need to intensify that. We need to come out of our comfort zone, get out, speak to other people, speak to your running friends, whoever you're interacting. And we don't need to give our opinion. We just need to tell them, okay, this is the farmers' protest. This is what's happening in India. This is the link or whatever. Form your own opinion. It could be same as your opinion. It could be different opinion. Our job is to highlight. Our job is not to convince everybody to how we think, but we should not leave any stone unturned in highlighting the issue. Every person you meet, highlight, they might start avoiding you, or she always talks about farmers, but it does not matter. That's the minimum you can do. So I've got few more things. Yes. So I've got a point here which says kind of lack of knowledge creates fear. So I know when I first started, I said, I'm not going to talk about the technicalities of the farm bill. That's because I'm on this panel now and I don't want to be quoted. I'm not an economist. But on a personal level, I would urge everybody to find out the reason why you're protesting. If not, there's not much difference between, we are calling blind followers. There's not much difference between them and between you. So make sure you find out what these laws are. And not necessarily people think, oh, they read these laws and they'll know what it is. No, they won't know. It's the interpretation. It's how they will be implemented. That's important. So try and understand that. Teach your parents, teach your grandparents, people who don't know, tell them how it affects them. So these are things which each and every person can do. We don't have to have 100 followers, or even, we don't even have to have 2 followers. Tell them. Talk to your colleagues. That's what I'm saying. Talk to your boss. And on top of the list is look after your mental health. I think especially it's true for me, because I can see sometimes it's going down the drain, and I finish the day, I'm thinking, what did I do today? I've just kind of had people trolled me really. So look after yourself. Even if you need to take a break for a day or two, So after every week, after 5 or 6 days, I think, you know what, I'm going to take a break for a day. It doesn't happen because I'm still like trying to find out what's happening, who's released, who's not. So what I'm trying to say is, talk to people. Anybody you meet, highlight, present the issue. They don't have to agree with you, but at least raise awareness. And as far as political pressure is concerned, our MPs Preet and Mr. Desi, they're doing a fantastic job. I follow them all, and yes, do want to thank them, and I want them to continue putting pressure, as opposed to what Boris Johnson is saying, that this is India's internal domestic matter. Human rights violation can never be a country's domestic matter. Agriculture can be, the trade can be, but human rights violation is not India's domestic matter. And if Boris Johnson is not saying anything against this human rights violation, then I would say UK will be classed as an ally to attacker. And that's how, again, going back to my same thing, attacker will get powerful. And one day it will come to UK if UK government does not stop that. And it is their duty. If they respect human rights violation, it is their duty, and our MPs need to support and continue to put the pressure. Sorry, I get a bit.
No, that's fine. No. Thank you for that, Ramanpreet. If I could finally just say to each and every one of you, because I don't want to just end it there. You know, if you, I'll probably start off with you, Simran. But with all of you, if you could just give one message to that, maybe one person, that second person, that however many people have tuned in, or for when we share this afterwards, what is it that you would like to say that they could do to help support the farmers' protest? So I'll start with you, Simran.
Okay, so I think just spread the awareness, stay united. I think if you've got friends and relatives in India and there's lots of stuff happening, we need for people to stay united, and we need keep spreading the awareness, keep talking about it. And like, there's not just one, but plenty of things. But yes, stay united, keep spreading the awareness.
Thank you. And if I could go to you, Tiran, next.
I would say the same. Stay united, but also where you can get involved politically, contact your MP, contact United Nations, tag all the news channels and all whatever you can find. I'd say do that. But also, whilst I'm going to end a closing comment, Minreet, I just want to say thank you to you so much for organizing this. And I know that with all the struggles, hurdles, obstacles that you've faced in just not even getting this panel sorted, but raising awareness for the Kisan movement has been amazing. And I honestly think like your efforts and your determination will not go unnoticed. And the articles that you write are really great. And, you know, like it shows that the passion that you have with the community work. And honestly, like, I think all the pieces that you've done for all the different avenues are great. And I just think, you know, a huge applause to you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. That is
yeah.
so nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. It wouldn't be possible without the support of you lovely women. Seriously, I am no one, and I'm only doing what I can do as Seva just for basically being able to give back, because you all are supporting me. So thank you. And Preet, if I could go over to you next with your final words and what you would like to say. And thanks, Simran, for the comments and everyone else's comments. I'm not very good at taking any kind of compliments, but thanks, Tiran.
I would say keep this in mind when you are spreading awareness. Hate is not going to get us what we want. Using social media in the right and proper way is important. Speaking down, disrespecting, spreading hate, showing aggression is not going to play in our support. Talk logic, speak facts, show facts, okay? And have a cognizant conversation with whomever you're having that conversation. I've seen a lot of hatred going around, and therefore it's not going to get you any positive results. You only have to say a few words to get your thoughts across, your voice across. So if you're getting bullied, hateful messages on social media, avoid them as much as possible, but don't spread any either. I think an awareness needs to be done in the most positive way. This is, again, going back to the fact that it is a peaceful protest. The ones that are involved in it and the ones that are not directly involved in it. Keep your peace, keep calm, because how we portray this outside of being this protest, it gives it a name as well. So our protests that is happening right now in India obviously has gotten a lot of names, right? And some of them come because of the way we speak. So let's just keep this in the most positive way and carry it out in that way. And that's all I have to say, because social media does tend to get a little iffy when people get too passionate about things. Show your passion in the most educated way. That's my thing to say.
That was brilliant. And Ramanpreet, if I could go to you finally on your final words, what would you like to say?
Thanks, Minreet. Actually, I would like to quote what our ninth Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji taught us. So now it says, translated into English, one who does not frighten anyone and who is not afraid of anyone else. So that means we don't need to bully people, but at the same time, we should not get ourselves bullied. And in layman terms, it's speak up, do not fear, I would say. Again and again, speak up, carry on speaking as much as you can.
That is a brilliant way to end the conversation, because Rapindra has just said as well, violations of human rights is a matter for all to raise their voices about. Manjit Kang joined and she said, absolutely, Simran and Tiran. Strength is in our unity, and just lots of positive comments. This has been excellent. People have really enjoyed it. A great discussion. So honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to Punjab 2000, Punjab 2000 gave us this platform. Never ever question anyone who wants to share their stories. So thank you to Punjab 2000. Thank you, ladies, for joining on a Saturday afternoon when the sun is out.
I know.
I can see
It's not out yet.
Yeah, I was going to say for you, Preet, you know what? Thank you to you, who's like probably about 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for getting up so early to join. It means a lot. Spread the word, ladies. If we can get more people to come forward, the panel is open for all. Okay, it's not about the number of followers. It's not about how popular you are. I myself only do the work that I do because I want people who don't have a voice to be heard. So please come to me, spread the word. Let's get as many people as we can every week. I'm going to keep this going for as long as I can. Hopefully it's a regular thing, and we can change it up a little bit and talk about the gaps, like you said, that there's gaps. There's other things we can talk about. So let's keep it going. Let's all connect with one another, and I hope you guys will all connect on social media. And to everyone that's joined as well, thank you for your comments. It's probably I haven't had a chance to read through all of them, but thank you for joining, and join us next week where we'll be back at 3 o'clock. So have a good rest of the weekend and look after yourself. Stay safe, stay well, and thank you once again for giving me your time. God bless you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Minreet.
No worries. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.